Welcome to Feature Please, a hateful voyage through the Delta Quadrant. My name is Joseph.
I'm Peter.
Peter, thanks for joining me, man. I know it's been a tough week for the household. You had to replace a water heater, and then all kinds of other stuff happened.
Novovirus. I just finished picking up pieces of vomited cherry and strawberry that my daughter exited out of her mouth all over her bed sheets that my wife lovingly made her for dinner last night.
Oh, God. Stevie and I both had that like a year and a half ago, and it was bad enough not to have to deal with a poor kid that's got it too. Like, ugh. Adventures in parenting, my friend. It's a shame you don't have a holographic doctor to summon up to deal with it.
That would have been a real help, I'll tell you. Yeah, we skipped 2 days of recording to push back on a Sunday, so this is a little offbeat for us. I did get some cool stuff, though. After seeing it at your house when we recorded Threshold, I checked out that Eagle Moss site that does the overpriced Star Trek spaceships.
Absolutely.
And anybody who's, been around the block from the beginning, like us, you'll remember the old Micro Machines spaceships, and I thought those were cool as shit. And I've always liked, I've got a little Enterprise and Star Destroyers on top of my computer, but these things are like what, $22 a pop. Quality's pretty high on them, and I like that they come with that book too.
Yes, the book was a nice touch. It told you about like the shuttle that they like put at the bottom of the saucer section on Voyager, but they didn't actually end up using it at any point in the show. Yeah,
it also tells you, and it's funny because even though stuff's like original or licensed official, there's so many contradictions between it and the show that what's the point? You could just say that, hey, the whole ship's made out of ice cream, and it's like, man, maybe in one episode it actually was. There's no rhyme or reason. It's all, but whatever. The figure's pretty cool, and I dig that. So that was my good part for the week. That and not dying.
Hey, you know what? Good job. Well done. I'm glad we didn't have to get some Federation necromancy going in here, and that you could make it through to recording, Voyager's latest projectile vomit. And what was that?
We were on season 3, episode 16, Blood Fever.
So I want to enhance the experience for both you and our listener. And to do that, I felt like, given the premise of this episode, I would tap into a resource that I had available to me, namely my wife, Stevie, to explore an idea that came up on one of our live casts. You remember the discussion about Star Trek erotic fan fiction?
Unfortunately, yes.
Well, this seems like an episode where we need to set the mood a little bit. So let me go ahead and do that and give you a selection from the very finest of the internet. This is Vulcan Restraint by Ashley Ingenious. Do you have any idea how close I was? Spock began, voice shaky. How close I was to taking you in that chair, on the bridge, with your crew watching, to give you what you wanted, feeding your something in front of them, in front of all of them, and you would have taken it. I could hear you. I could hear you in my mind, moaning like some kind of whore. Jim shuddered violently. Do you know how much it wrecks me to see you and hear you? To feel you in my head, to know that you love this. You love being on your knees for me. Love being called my whore. Isn't that special?
I couldn't tell you a single thing you just talked about because in my mind, I retreated to a better place, which was reliving using my fingernail to dig dried puke strawberries out of the velvet of her bed sheet before I put it in the wash machine because I knew it would just fuck it up more. So I don't know what you're talking about, but cleaning baby vomit with my bare hands was a lot better than it.
There is so much of it out there. And you see an episode like this, and you can understand where people get fucking inspired. I remember when this got marketed. You remember Resistance and how it was actually even in the Memory Alpha about how the marketing was very strongly oriented towards the idea that Janeway was going to like sell her body for her crew or something. Like she was going to hoe it up.
Which is about 1.3% of the actual episode contents.
Yeah, it's like barely a minute and a half. It's like a one-off ruse to get a gun or something.
Yeah.
This episode was essentially marketed in much the same way as being a 24/7 365 Vulcan on Klingon fuckfest. And it's
kind of was.
It was, I would say, more accurate in that regard, but it was far more interesting an episode than the marketing actually suggested it would be, at least for the first like 2/3. The last third is just fucking hilarious, but the first 2/3 is kind of deep. There's a lot going on.
Let's go with ending thoughts before we go blow by blow here, because even though it's been 2 or 3 days at this point since I've seen it, I'm still trying to work out in my head if I liked the episode, if this episode has like psychologically scarred me towards Vulcans. That's a lot to work out. And I don't know if we're going to say that this episode was kind of a product of the times for that point in the 90s.
Yeah, it's a real artifact of its period. I agree with you there.
And this is Lisa Klink at the helm on the script for this thing. It was Lisa Klink, and it looked like it was the guy who played Garrick in Deep Space Nine. Also the guy from Hellraiser.
That is correct. Andrew Robinson. So possibly my favorite Star Trek actor by dint of the fact he played my favorite Star Trek character, Garrick. Sainted Picard aside. He directed like 3 total episodes between DS9 and Voyager, so he didn't stick on the director path quite the same way as others did. But he did this one, and yeah, it was Lisa Klink who did Resistance, so that was a strange coincidence in regards to the marketing, as well as Remember, which we did earlier this season, which was another B'Elanna episode.
I think it's the use of forced sexuality, which is, I don't know, kind of makes me happy that there's a female name associated to the script. Maybe it diffuses it a little bit. I think if you would have had a guy in there, there'd be some weirder feelings. But this turns a lot of stuff on its head.
I would agree right up front that you could, not even at the time, could you have done this episode with the gender roles reversed? Absolutely, there is no way in hell that would have passed muster. If you had like tried to like flip this, if it was like Tom Paris that was infected with juju juice and needed to bang to save his life, and only B'Elanna could bail him out, you couldn't have done that. Did you like it?
We look at the last episode that was, and having listened to that podcast since then, I will agree that was a bad episode. This one did have that singular purpose, and I think it did explore characters, and we did see a fair amount of growth. I did enjoy the inclusion of a lot of secondary characters and some cool alien situations. I think the side of Vulcan that we see is real scary, and it, like I said, it kind of taints that species as a whole. You know what? I'm going to say I did like it. It was different. I think it worked, and it was edgier than we normally get in Star Trek. So, I would say that it added to the Voyager story.
I think it was a clumsy in a lot of ways, in that they tried to make something from Star Trek's past make more sense, but they didn't really succeed in that. And the last bit of the last act, where they have the final resolution of the plot, was just kind of laughably dumb, and how they roll that out. But despite that, I think there is actually a lot to like in this episode, particularly trying to like start doing some character development for B'Elanna and Tom, who are characters we don't know a lot about, like their personal lives, and particularly B'Elanna and that sort of thing, trying to give them all more fleshed out background. I liked that. I think that the unintentional hilarious parts of this episode are, I guess the Doctor embodies it in a lot of ways, and we'll get to it, of like trying being the audience surrogate to be like, how the fuck does no one know how any of this work? Like, why are you Vulcans so fucking stupid about this? Which I'm glad, like, during the episode, he gives voice to that.
Yeah, and I look forward to discussing that specifically. So let's get started. We jump off into our first scene, and we are treated to a brand new wig that has been bestowed upon Ensign Vorik. He now no longer has this goofy, dark Ken doll wig, but he's got like a legit Vulcan science dude wig, and it looks good. I don't know, man. You know, next gen, they started off in the front zip one piece jumpsuits, right? And then they got the bigger budget and they switched over to the two piece, but they kept the front zip suits around, and all the nobodies on the ship still wore the old uniforms because they already paid money from them. They were going to be the new nice ones. And you could kind of differentiate like main cast versus secondary cast. But these Voyager Deep Space Nine jumpsuits, they're all kind of the same, or are they? I feel like Vorik's uniform looks nicer than most of the main cast. I don't know if that was just in my mind or what. Did you pick up on that at all?
I think it just fits him a little bit better. Like, for whatever reason, the kind of the backup uniform happens to be his size. That, or the fact that his mother is the showrunner at this time, is that they had one specially made for him. That seems more likely to me. The actor's mother, you know, little nepotism, is Jerry Taylor. So, you know, we're gonna make sure our boy looks good on camera for his episode that spotlights him. Like, you know, sometimes the simple explanation is true.
But we're down in engineering, and it's no, actually, we're not even engineering yet. The Voyager, you know, we get a good exposition by the captain that they've come across a planet with some unobtainium that's really going to help them out if they can get it. They can refurbish parts of the warp drive, and it's going to be a real good time if they put the effort into recovery these materials. And that's always the kind of setup I like to see at the top of these episodes, a good justification of why are we getting into the nonsense.
Yeah, why are we endangering ourselves? Because this is a very valuable thing that will allow us to do something important to our
get home
ship.
Yeah. But the stuff they want is underground, and for whatever reason, they're not just going to transport down there. They need to send a away team down in the most archaic fashion possible, and they're going to have to cave dive into this. And right now, the away team's looking like it's going to be B'Elanna and Neelix for some reason. Tom Paris, because he's a caves badass, and Vorik, because he's part of the engineering detail and he's got some cave experience too.
So they set all that up, and in a, I guess we would call it, most charmingly Vulcan way possible, Vorik basically asks, are we done with this particular work product? As if to, like, transition into another conversation, and B'Elanna's like, yeah, that's it. We've got it all figured out. And then he says, excellent. I would like to declare my Vulcan word I can't pronounce, that I'm proposing marriage to you. But we get a lot of, like, reaction shots back to B'Elanna where she's like, Abreu? And kind of protests about this, and Vorik very logically, like, lays out the rationale for why he thinks that they should be mates, and that they should proceed with being married because it's the logical thing to do. Quite expectantly, Torres is not wanting to do that, does not accept. She's really diplomatic about it. Like, this is in the workplace, Vorik. You know, like, this is not appropriate conversation.
I was really expecting her to lay down the law hard on him. And you'd mentioned a few episodes ago that Vorik was going to get creepy, and that's certainly what happens here, even before we get into, like, his full-blown space madness. By today's standards, like, this dude is just pressing way too hard and going for no.
Up to the point where she officially says no, it's just kind of, you know, awkward Vulcan shit.
Mm-hmm.
But then what happens is she says no and she starts to walk away, and that's when Vorik is being obviously, like, aggressive and demanding, and actually puts his hands on B'Elanna, on her face, which at that point, you know, B'Elanna does what she always does in engineering, and that's assault one of her underlings by giving him 5 across the face. Just a solid Dolby punch, you know?
It was a palm strike, I believe.
Was it a palm strike? Was it Star Trek Palm Strike?
Yeah, it's Star Trek Palm Strike.
Oh, she was holding back then. That's good. She
Mhm.
wasn't given the full Dolby.
No.
But once again, B'Elanna has knocked out a member of the engineering crew, and we cut after credits back up at sick bay as the doctor's like, the fuck are you people up to right now? Does some scans and then tells B'Elanna she's got to go because he's detected something that he needs to talk to Vorik about one-on-one.
So in this scene, though, I want to point out, it's like Kess, the doctor, Vorik, Torres, and that's it. There's no security involvement at all, which seems a little weird since you just had a crew member basically assault you. And with all the alien possession illusion nonsense that goes on in this ship, I think they take these sorts of outbursts a little more serious when people really break character.
Well, it could be that B'Elanna chose not to involve them since she was the one that, she got assaulted to begin with and then essentially fought back. And she's like, well, I'm just going to quietly take this fool upstairs and see if we can figure this out without.
I'm going to choose to believe that it's just Tuvok furtherly negligent in his duties.
Okay,
security.
That's fair. I mean, we've seen enough evidence of that there. It's like Tuvok was just busy watching YouTube videos. He just didn't give any fucks.
Playing Vulcan Jenga, that's all.
After B'Elanna is dismissed, in what I feel is the best part of the episodes, the best parts of the episode, the doctor looks over to Vorik and says, I don't know exactly what's wrong with you because there isn't a lot written about it, but based on the evidence, you're going through the pond far, aren't you? And Vorik straightens up and just does not want to talk about it. And the doctor inhabits, I think, a very good line for the rest of the episode from this point forward of just utter confusion as to why the fuck the Vulcans on the ship and and all the medical professionals in the Federation before this never fucking write anything down about this and seem so absolutely ashamed of what the doctor terms is essentially a natural biological process.
I really like this. I think this adds a lot of depth to the Vulcan race, and I think this was some really, really good world building, that you could have such a practical and logical species and just have something that is regarded as so deeply shameful internally to this culture that they are complete hypocrites in all senses and just hide it and push it in the corners at all cost, in this case, to very serious detriment of those around them. And even when Tuvok gets brought in lately, like, nobody will budge on this at all until it's like the most dire of consequences.
Yeah, the doctor calls it a very Victorian attitude towards sex. There is no effort on the part of the script or the story to try and justify the Vulcans being so conscientiously self-destructive, for lack of a better way of putting it, about all of this. It's just what they do. They're just so ashamed of it that even though they sort of recognize what they're doing is not logical and self-destructive, they just are so ashamed of this loss of control that they suffer as a consequence of this that they will not discuss it with others. And
I think that it was cool. I actually paused the episode to kind of ponder on this. And, the Vulcans are the co-founders of the Federation, right? Humanity and Vulcan are the first two. The benefits that bestows on them, the preferential treatment and the things that they can get away with that, maybe some of the other species can't. And I think certainly this is one of them. And I think as the episode goes on and you see just how ugly Vorik's actions are going to get, that, it's kind of maybe justified that there's a very good reason that the Vulcans are so ashamed of how ugly this whole affair can get. And I don't know if the return to Vulcan specifically, because they say, Tuvok will go on to say, look, during this time, once every 7 years, we have to go back to Vulcan and do this thing. The limits that puts on deep space exploration, for starters, but then you flip over to like the Kelvin timeline, right? The Abrams verse.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what happens to all the Vulcans now that planet Vulcan is actually gone? Just cool stuff to think about.
The fact that Tuvok gets brought in almost immediately in the episode, and the doctor's like, I need help dealing with Vorik. He's obviously struggling with this. you need to tell me what it is you need to tell me. He's like, I'm not fucking telling you anything. There's 3 ways he can deal with this, or, he'll die. And he's chosen one of the ways that he can hopefully deal with it. Hopefully he won't die. That's it. The only reason he ends up actually going to talk to Vorik in the second act of the episode is because of the consequences of his original actions that we'll get to.
Yeah.
That's it. Otherwise he's like, no, I'm not talking to him about it at all. Like, that is not fucking happening. Whatever happens, he dies. He's like,
Tuvok's treating this like, look, dude, he's got to go beat off, and you're asking me to go in there and like touch him and help him to get off. And I'm not interested, and I don't care if he dies of like toxic shock or whatever. That's a Vorik problem for Vorik to deal with. I want to give the actor portraying Vorik a lot of credit here. I think that his performance through this episode, even as it gets very ugly, intentionally ugly, that he puts a lot of great energy and emotional charge, whether it's anger or shame, into this character.
Fear, too. Scene.
Yes.
Because as we'll discover, this is Vorik's first bite at this particular apple, and he does not fully understand any of what's going on. And that plays out in a way that, again, the good parts of this episode are the fleshing out of the Vulcan backstory that we see in the first 30 minutes. And he does a great job, I agree. The episode moves forward with the rock climbing team. Yeah, the not great part, which is the rock climbing team going to the surface. B'Elanna's basically keeping Vorik secret at the moment, just says he's not coming.
The worst part of this, if I may, because this is just like a what the fuck moment. They meet up in the transporter room, and they have these ridiculous ass baked potato outfits on.
But they have Federation rock climbing gear on, man. What do you mean?
I classified it as Federation bobsled team uniform. They're like these skin tight foil cat suits, and then they'll have like the department color kind of like, I don't know, loop around the shoulders. Neelix is in one too.
Yeah, I was going to say, you got Neelix in a uniform, brother.
Yeah, oh, my wildest dreams have come true. But everybody's like, hey, where's Vorik? And B'Elanna's like you said, she's trying to sweep it under the carpet, but already her tempo seems off. And credit to Roxann Dawson, she starts portraying the unraveling of her character from this moment forward very well.
Once again, this is the 3rd fucking time in a row that we've had a B'Elanna episode where they're like, hey, Roxann Dawson, you gotta play out of your fucking mind. Like, again, like, it was Faces, and then it was Remember, and now it's this. The damn B'Elanna episode is that B'Elanna has to be in a ridiculous situation that requires Roxann Dawson to dig super deep into her acting skills.
Look at what you just said. The 3 episodes. Faces, where she has to portray a horny Klingon, and then Remember, where she has to portray a horny teenager, and this, where she has to portray a horny
Klingon.
Vulcan Klingon. Like, you're not asking Roxann Dawson to play different characters. You're just being like, hey, we need you in Heat again.
It's true. They get down to the surface of the planet, and they start to do Federation rock climbing. And apparently the super science of the 24th century means they use the exact same things that you use in the 20th century to do rock climbing.
Dude, I saw the original series movies. I know they have anti-gravity boots. What the fuck are they doing screwing around with these Batman grappling hook guns and rappelling gear? Like, hundreds of years ago, Spock was just floating in the air talking to Kirk with just magic boots.
El Capitan, yeah.
Just with magic boots. What's going on here? Why?
I mean, I understand Star Trek V is objectively terrible, and you don't necessarily want to take things from that movie and remind people that they exist, but the idea that the Federation rock climbing team is literally doing the exact same things that you would do in the 20th century, there's like no science here whatsoever that they've advanced.
I can't think of anything less Star Trek, less Starfleet specifically, than having to use a fucking rope.
It's like they don't have any like cool like gloves and shoes that they can like Spider-Man down the wall or some shit like that, which wouldn't have been, I think, a big ask effects wise for them to do.
No, that would have been
No,
dope. But a rope
but
is like the most analog tool in the human, like, short of them just carrying clubs or hitting the warp core with rocks to try and fix it. It just seems so caveman to me. But they get this climbing nonsense going, and wouldn't you know it, but there Neelix goes running off on his own, causing problems. I mean, to be fair, in this case, it's his rope cutting and him falling and knocking B'Elanna down in the process. But it's classic Neelix.
they hit the bottom, and B'Elanna's immediately super pissed off at Snarf Snarf for possibly almost getting them killed. Neelix is pretty hurt. Torres is now clearly acting out of character and is just way too amped up, way too angry. Tom tries to actually stop her physically, and that's when she bites him on the cheek and then runs off. And we get Paris calling back up to the ship. They're like, I don't know how to describe all this, but we got some problems down here. And that's when we really kind of kick into gear as far as the rest of the episode is concerned.
Do you feel that Tom threw B'Elanna under the bus? When you go to your boss and you say, "Hey, look, man, we're having some problems down here, and my coworker bit me on the face," like, you can't really walk that one back. Being, that it's bad boy Tom who's a little fast in the rules, or fast and loose with the rules. Like, do you think he rolled over on that one a little too quick?
I don't think so because to go back to the sort of space hazards Rolodex that everyone has to deal with.
Yeah.
Tom's like, I got to make sure I tell them everything that's just happened because God only fucking knows what's going on that she's decided to do that. So I need to provide as much information as possible up front.
Tom's like, I don't need any felonious charges here filed after the fact. I'm going to be real up front.
I need to make sure this shit's on lock and file with HR now. Like, I did not initiate that. It was done to me.
So here's the big picture on this one, right? Tom ends up being a real good guy by the end of this because, as we, of course, can see the writing on the wall very clearly here, B'Elanna is going to be throwing herself hard at Tom, and he's going to play the, no, you're drunk, we're not doing this. Basically. I think at this point, it's too early in the game, and I think I would have liked to see Tom kind of wallow in this and relish it kind of like a shitbag a little bit, not knowing that there's something actually wrong and just thinking, hey, maybe my little flirty times are getting to her and this is legit. And then a sudden realization like, okay, she's sick. I got to knock the bullshit off and lock this down. So I think he has played overly cautious from the jump, but I think in the end it serves a greater purpose.
I get it though. I mean, it makes a lot of sense for what the character development they want to do here, which is Tom, is attracted to B'Elanna. She likes him. He likes her, and he values her. And this is a very, very awkward situation of this woman that you're attracted to essentially physically throwing herself at you aggressively, and then later on, as we'll discover, like literally having sex with her is how you save her life.
Yeah,
like is what gets put out there, and he's resistant to doing it because he's aware of the altered state of mind and not wanting to basically violate her in any sense as a consequence of this not being a fully sober, conscientious decision that she's making, which that all comes off, like you said, good for Tom. It develops Tom into something less. He's an ethical dirtbag, Mm-hmm. He's skeevy, but he's not a rapey. They're drawing a real clear line here. All that's actually pretty good. The cut back up to the ship is where we have Tuvok finally having to go talk to Vorik while he's got metaphorical meditative dick in hand to try and talk to him about why it is that B'Elanna seems to have initiated a mating ritual with Tom on the surface. So I guess we should point that out. It is long understood in Trek lore that a Klingon woman biting a man's cheek is initiation for sex. That is a TNG thing that we got, I think, from the Aduras sisters, right?
Yeah.
I think they
I
fucking
think
do
the
that
first
shit.
time you really encounter that was when Susie Plaxton, what was
Oh
her
yeah,
Worf?
Kale. Yeah, fuck, I
When
can't
she
pronounce it.
shows up and ambushes Worf with the hotness, and I believe she bit him on the cheek. It's biting. I don't, whether it's on the wrist or palm or on the cheek. If the Klingon chick bites you, it's go time.
Bingo. And so, with that information in mind, when he buzzes that up, Tuvok kind of straightens up at his station, like, oh, fuck. Goes to talk to Vorik, and this is where we get good acting in regards to Vorik's kind of fear and not understanding what's going on, because he doesn't realize that he's basically psychically infected B'Elanna with super hormones. He has transferred his big dick energy on accident through a mind meld that he was essentially trying to establish without knowing that's what he was trying to establish in engineering. It was instinctual. And that has infected B'Elanna with the big dick energy, and now we've got the problems that they've got on the surface.
Reflect on this, because it really illustrates the depth of shame that the writers are casting on the Vulcans, where this guy didn't even know that this was a possibility. That is how dangerous the Vulcans are to the people around them. Like, hey, my mom or dad never told me, like,
where's the Vulcan sex ed?
If you don't go back to Vulcan on your 7-year mark and you jerk off in the shower, you might get everybody pregnant. If you bump into people in the hallway, you might put them in heat and make them want to rape their coworkers. You might put murderous rape intent in their brain. And that's really kind of the scary shadow coming off the Vulcan, is like at their core, they have these moments of weakness where they become like this crazy, super strong telepathic, manipulative rape machine.
Yeah. And no information. I mean, Vorik is a Starfleet officer and clearly an adult, and he has no knowledge of a process that he was destined to go through. No one has prepared him for this in any like real way. All he knows, he's got to like meditate the fuck energy away, or he's gonna die. And he doesn't understand that he's capable of basically infecting people psychically with his big dick energy, and that is stunning. That they put that in the episode. The only thing this was missing was the doctor being like, "Are you fucking serious? Like, how the fuck do you? What? Why isn't this in a medical database somewhere? What the fuck is wrong with you people?"
This seems like a major contamination issue for us. So Vorik's in his quarters. He's got his little incense going. I see bunk beds, so God only knows what happens to his crewmate or who's stuck being crewmate.
Somebody who's like, I'm gonna sleep on someone's floor. Get the fuck out of here.
And he's in there meditating. And he's thinking about like taxes and stuff at work he hates, and baseball, and cleaning up baby vomit with his bare hands, just anything to get his mind off of nasty Vulcan sex, right?
Speaking of nasty Vulcan sex,
I'm gonna go and take my headphones off.
Hold on,
back in about
I got something here for you. Hold on.
AFK bio break.
It's called In Vulcan Hands by Excella. This is in the Mirror Universe, by the way. Spock's bed frame has been specifically commissioned by the Vulcan High Commander, live hand to the Empress herself. The cuffs on the headboard were made of an iridescent dark material found only in one very small planet, deemed an Imperial treasure. When one strained against the bonds, the tensions caused by the headboard to resonate in notes pleasing and arousing to Vulcan ears, the tone and depth of which charged according to the strength of the pull. Pavel tested his bonds cautiously as they both hummed softly.
All right, I'm putting my headphones back on, Joe. I hope you're done torturing whoever has been brave enough to stick around and listen to this goddamn episode.
Well, you know.
So this conversation goes down between Tuvok and Vorik, and Tuvok's like, hey, by the way, here's what's up. And Vorik is in a real bad place. He's super snippy. He is acting well outside the parameters of what we know his character to be. And again, you just have this real creepy, rapey vibe coming off of potentially what could be any Vulcan. And it's ugly. And I think that's cool that you take what is many times kind of this Mary Sue species of Star Trek, and you've put so many points into their flaws at this stage that I think you're getting some real mileage out of it.
I completely agree. And they move from there back down to the surface. Chakotay has shown up with Tuvok, and Paris is going on a chase basically with them, trying to find B'Elanna. They conclude that their best bet is to try and find the Gallicite that they all came down to the surface to find. And I guess it's worth pointing out now, because we haven't discussed it, they're in the mines of another civilization that evidently has been wiped off this planet. It doesn't exist. There's just some ruins, and these are some mines that were created by whoever these aliens were in this planet. And so they're going through this area trying to find this resource that they were ultimately mining, this Gallicite that they're going to use for the warp coils. They are successful in actually finding B'Elanna as she finds the Gallicite. And that's actually when, out of the walls, a whole bunch of aliens show up with guns, and things get a little bit more real. And in a very cool twist, the aliens look great. And they have this sort of like camouflage look to them.
Yeah.
Like they kind of look like The Rock. And we don't really learn a lot about them, except that they were a race that lived on the surface, and they had to retreat into the mines after an invader came and just started wiping everybody out. And Chakotay does his best to convince them that they're not a threat, but unfortunately, B'Elanna, being infused with all this big dick energy, starts a fight with one of the aliens that points a gun at her, and shit gets kind of wacky, and there's an earthquake that happens around that time, and all of this is to set up B'Elanna and Tom being stranded in a different part of the mine system, away from everybody else, so that they can have their, shall we say, close talking.
I love the aliens. Everything you said is right. Them popping out of nowhere was actually startling to me as I'm sitting there watching, UPN TV. I was like, oh, Jesus. What the fuck was that? Like, did I miss a part? Like, how did Star Trek manage to startle me? I thought it was a really cool example of the Federation encountering a species in an odd fashion that should have been totally peaceful and good and like right up the Federation's first contact protocol, but instead you have drunk, horny B'Elanna running amok and compromising everything that Chakotay was trying to do during his one chance of being a first contact guy. Shout out to Beltrain, by the way, who looks great in his baked potato bobsled outfit.
It's true.
We gave him some shit earlier about them having to put him in a drug rug to hide the paunch, but he's been hitting the sit-ups. Yeah, looking real good.
He actually does, like, Chakotay does a good job of, like, negotiating the tense situation. Like, the alien demands his, like, tries to, like, why do you have a gun? And he's like, well, it's standard when we, like, go to a place we don't know anything. He's like, I want your gun. He's like, sure, here's my gun.
Oh, when he said that, I was like, whoa, Chakotay, like, let me ask you, man, do we like Chakotay now?
I think we kind of do.
I think I firmly do. Like, he hasn't really done anything stupid or pissed me off or had any like weak acting or been scripted to act foolish in a long time.
Yeah, I think the second season, kind of washed out finally, like, all of their attempts to make his backstory make sense. And the best part of him was the Seska stuff.
Yeah.
Like the Seska stuff, that being gone is unfortunate, but overall, like, season 3 Chakotay has been a marked improvement over prior Chakotays.
I think they've walked back to his like sensitive side and made him a little bit more military hard ass.
And they also have stopped trying to lean in on his Indian heritage stuff. Like, the last time it got mentioned was him making fun of himself over the fact that he's the only Indian that you could possibly have had that doesn't know how to start a fire. Like, that was it. Like, other than that, he's just been a good company man and flirts with the captain a lot. Like, I can deal with that.
Yeah. They end up with B'Elanna and Tom lost in the caves, and then Tuvok and Chakotay get taken captive because at this point the aliens are like, listen, we tried giving you the benefit of the doubt, but now it's clear to us that you are up to no good, and we're going to take you back and interrogate you, found out how you found us because we're not happy about that, and we're going to pump you for information about all your fantastic technology.
And again, to Chakotay's credit, he basically talks him out of it. Like to say, hey, listen, we came here to find this stuff. We detected it. I totally get that you didn't want to be found. Our bad. Tell you what, we'll help you with some technological enhancements so that somebody else who comes to try and look for this stuff can't find it, and therefore it just keeps going. And he seems like impressed. Like, really? You just help us? Like, yeah, sure.
I will point out these aliens are also shitheads.
They are shitheads. Stevie also pointed that out. Like, once again, shit in their hair. But, like, the overall look is much more blended.
So what I'm thinking at this point, we've included, when we're saying shitheads, it looks like they've taken dried lunch meats and, like, layered them through their hair. And in this case, they've spray painted them away from their normal fleshy tones to, like, paper mache rock colors. What if, like, in the Alpha Quadrant, you know, all the humanoids basically look the same, kind of like humans with little minor variations of like ridges on their temples and the bridge of their nose and stuff. What if in like the Delta Quadrant, like the shithead is the default humanoid type and everything's kind of just been a variation of like some crusty haired bipedal thing with different ridges around
that makes, I mean, that's actually making something interesting out of what is obviously the makeup department being lazy. I mean, I like it. That's a lot of good effort there, man. Like, when they're not just deciding that the alien they're going to run into are humans in terrible outfits, which we've actually seen a couple times.
Yep.
The makeup department seems to really like the spray painted hair, the shithead, the baloney in the bonnet type of look, which... yeah, if we want to actually make something out of that, that's actually a good explanation. Good job. We'll send you back in time and be a writer. It's solid work.
Meanwhile, back up on the ship, we have the pimp named Holodeck.
Oh my god, this was fantastic, man! This is some shit that we were talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like, let's lay this out. The Doctor, who is attempting to try and help Vorik deal with this stuff through like injections and medical stuff, and it's not working, says to Vorik, I have an alternative treatment. Will you please try it? He talks him into it. Okay. And what happens is they go to the holodeck, and what the Doctor has done is has programmed a holographic sex doll for Vorik that is a Vulcan, that looks like a Vulcan female. So let me say that again. The Doctor, who is a hologram, has decided to create a sex slave that specifically is been created for Vorik to bang, so he can bang out his big dick energy on the holodeck. This is his treatment idea. I was like, what the vistas this unlocks is just absolutely mind-blowing.
My question is, okay, so you're Vulcan, and you know that this Pon-farr thing is a big fucking deal, and it's going to limit the ability for your species to explore deep space. So is Vulcan a 7-year journey or closer to Earth at Warp 1 for first contact? It'd have to be, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Actually, it'd be like, what, 3.5 year travel distance, because they'd have to be able to get out.
Whatever. Get back, yeah.
Whatever. We're not going to get too deep in the retcon game. But, you know, when this holodeck technology comes out, like, if you're most Vulcans be like, hey, this might be like, you know, the fleshlight we need to really conquer this very ugly thing. If we just go bang, you know, some holodeck characters and get this out of our system, that'd be super, you know, hygienic and clinical, right? Like, oh, wait, we did it and it didn't work at all. This is catastrophic. We better maybe make a note of that somewhere so people don't ever rely on this as a backup only to find out that it doesn't work. Nope, no dice. So there he is in the holodeck, pimping out one of his slaves to Vorik. And Vorik starts shaking his head like, you know what? I think I can give this a shot.
I don't want to spoil too much for you, but they actually return to this idea in this show later. You can imagine for who. This is not the last time that someone will create a holographic sex slave for somebody.
Well, you know what? In a series that doesn't remember anything it did the last week. That doesn't surprise me.
I guess, like, this really does settle some of the discussions that we're having. Like, it's totally okay in the Federation to have sex with a hologram.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the doctor's literally prescribing this as a treatment.
The doctor is effectively a veterinarian, and he has a cat, and the cat is in heat, and he says, you need a holographic Q-tip. And that is my prescription.
So to talk about the doctor's sentience for a second, I mean, it's a shame that there isn't any opportunity for us to take a second in this episode and consider the doctor's like thought process of what he thinks of holographic life, quote unquote. I guess this is a clear indication that like purpose-built holographic programs to him aren't people, because he can basically create something to be a sex slave for somebody, and that's perfectly fine by him.
And you'll note that, and I hope I'm not somehow provoking you to read some prepared trash story you found on the internet, that he doesn't just change himself into Vulcan and try to do the deed himself here.
Yeah, like, which would have, I think, been more logical. You know, because why would the doctor care? He's obviously not a sexual being himself, right? And he could have programmed himself with whatever.
No, we got to stop this conversation. We're giving people plot ideas for something I do not want to burst.
We just need the right music to discuss this. So, like, the doctor could have made himself look like this.
You know what? I think that Nova virus is coming back on. I'm feeling real queasy here. Excuse me while I go throw up for another 24 hours. God damn it.
Oh man. Okay. Well, moving forward, right?
I hope this episode can displace Tuvok in charge as the least listened to it. What a badge of shame this will become. I blame Lisa Klink.
We finally get all the Tom B'Elanna face-to-face stuff that they play it out pretty well. Like, to the credit of both Robert Duncan McNeil and Roxann Dawson, they play off each other very strongly in these scenes. There's a clear, desire on both of their parts. Obviously, B'Elanna's is much more intense for plot reasons. It builds their relationship that will ultimately, obviously, build further from here. They continue to try and escape. They look like they're going to be trapped. It's coming down to, like, literally B'Elanna is begging Tom Paris to have sex with her. She wants it so bad that she's crawling out of her skin. It gets a little too much as far as the exploitation element.
Yeah,
as it goes on. At first it's cool, and then like the second phase of the please fuck me begging comes into effect, and I was like, this is just getting weird.
Time out. We're in the enlightened 24th century, right? Sex is no big deal. It's all loosey-goosey. There's no fraternization rules and everything else. Tom humps a lot. Like, I think it kind of...
I get it. Up to the point where they feel like they have a method of escape, I understand why he's turning her down. But, like, the moment they look like they're like trapped, it doesn't make any sense anymore.
Not only is she in physical pain, but they've already very clearly communicated, like, the imbalance on this is so bad, it can kill her. So get off this weird, like, Puritan prude high horse and just bang her. Okay, we get it. You want to be a good guy, but you have medicine she needs to not die at this point.
And that medicine is your dick, dude.
She needs vitamin D. She needs... But, I mean, I think you go with, like, right. Season 1, weird, sexy time, swinger Gene Roddenberry Star Trek, where, they're beaming down to the surface of planets where everybody's just, wearing scarves around their dick and having sex nonstop. And then you get to this where you're my coworker and I don't, like, it lost me.
Yeah, the second time around, it gets a little too exploitive, and the plot rationale for why Tom is saying no longer makes sense. And like you said, this is the enlightened 24th swinger century. People obviously have a very liberated sense of sexuality in the future. So, like, at this point, be like, all right, well, obviously you're in pain and we need to put that to bed. So let's go ahead and
put it to bed.
Put it to bed. Right. But they don't, because again, they want to portray Tom in the maximal good guy light. possible that he did not take it, quote unquote, take advantage. And I think that's obviously because this is the 90s and this is a family TV show and we can't have something like that on the show. Like if this were being made now, a totally different situation all around. But for the time period this was made in, I think it had to be this way. Speaking of things that had to be this way, this is from the same thick as before, In Vulcan Hands by Zella. You are bound by the constructs in your human mind. These binds pull on you. They tear at you. They oppress you. They hurt, Captain. Your eyes scream of it. Spock explained, rising from his seat to walk towards the captain, circling. I will bind you. My binds are the only ones that matter. Under this binding, you will be free from all others. He paused. You want this, yes? Yes, Jim strangled out. God, yes. There's a lot of BDSM / fic out there. There's a lot.
I hope for the love of God that you exercise better judgment while editing this and you just cut all that crap out and just put some of the sexy music in and like maybe 3 words and then fade us back into us talking about Star Trek, because that is, you're going to cost us listeners, Joe. I'm telling you.
Or we're going to find all new ones.
No! I quit. I'm out.
All right. That's it. I'm done. Done. I promise.
Back up on the ship, EMH swings back through the holodeck, which, by the way, is the Talaxian / Polynesian murder resort.
Right. Murder resort / fuck palace.
/ clinical treatment area now. Sex therapy. He finds Vork. Vork's chilling out. He seems all good. And the doctor says, did you enjoy my cyber flesh? And he said, yeah, actually, that worked out really well. Thank you. And doctor checks him out, says, hey, everything's looking preliminarily pretty good. I got to run a couple more tests, and you will be good to go back into dirties. So, check plus in our book. I can look the other way a lot of things that, goes on the ship, because I can just chalk it up to human error or even Vulcan error because, Tuvok fucks everything up security related. But
he's not on the ship right now, though. So
the negligence we're going to see on the doctor's behalf in letting a very dangerous situation go before he has finished seems real against his real against the code here.
I guess I get it more that because he there's no information out there. If he thinks that it's fixed, he probably thinks it's fixed.
My assumption is what happens here is that he gets the first wave of all clear, and that either Vork truly thinks that he's been fixed and really the problem's just kind of gone into remission, or he's in like psychotic overdrive and like the chaos has become calm and focused to lie his way out of the situation so he can go get what he really wants. Like he's gone full-blown psycho.
I think it's the latter. I mean, as we'll see, it seems likely. So Torres and Paris finally get sprung from the caves by Chakotay and Tuvok, but Torres is just like in the terminal phase of her desperate need for vitamin D. And straight up, Tuvok orders Tom, like, go take B'Elanna into the woods and fuck her to save her life. Like, that's it. We're there. We can't, for whatever reason, I can't reach the ship right now to get us beamed up aboard. If you don't put your dick into B'Elanna Torres' vagina right now, Tom Paris, she's going to fucking die. So you go do that. And he kind of resignedly is like, well, I guess if I have to, which is like, it's a little much.
And that's really where this thing reaches the super eye roll. Like, come on, this is a problem now.
Yeah, and this is also the episode just kicked itself in the dick here at the end, because what happens is Tom like reluctantly goes over and like magically forgets to have sex while B'Elanna starts like tearing his clothes off, and she wants him to fight him a little bit, it's getting a little hot and heavy, and that's when Vork shows up, and he shows up, like punches Tom Paris and yells that he wants to do the Caliphie, which is the ritualistic fighting for the mate, because he sees Tom and B'Elanna together and he assumes, okay, well, I'm gonna obviously go fight Tom Paris now, and I'm gonna claim my bride, and that's what's up. And what becomes really like weird is that obviously Chakotay and Tuvok come over, and Chakotay's like, no, fuck no, this is stupid. We're not gonna fucking do this. We're gonna go back up in the ship. We're gonna treat this with like medical stuff. And then Tuvok's like, yeah, so pretty sure Vorik is the one who turned off all the communications, and these two are gonna die if they don't do this right now. So you have to let them do a fight to the death, or they'll both die. And Tuvok, with all, I'm sorry, Chakotay, with all the authority of a fucking substitute teacher, is like, you know what? Fine, I'm out. Like, fuck it. Like, go ahead, I guess. Whatever. I'm so tired of this. I'm so tired of everybody wanting to have sex right now. Just go ahead.
Tuvok just starts talking stupid here. I really checked out on anything he had to say. There's 5 or 6 different ways I think we could have found a way to handle this. B'Elanna is effectively Chakotay's best friend, right?
Right.
Yeah. And you know, there's a very clear line to her getting better, which is, hey, her and Tom go back in the woods, and Vorik, who is a full-blown like murder rapist psycho now, right? You could have just stunned him up a little bit, maybe thrown him in the old Juggalo prison to thaw off for a year or two. Yeah, you know what? Hey, here's another novel use for Juggalo tech. When you start going through the pond far, you throw them in there. You go let the Vulcans have their way with Chuck McGill and pop them out. 2 days later, everything's good. Holodeck technology has nothing on that space clown pussy.
That's the idea that like the doctor like goes into the Juggalo prison after Vorik's been in there, and like the clown acrobats have like been split in half, like shit like that. Like, you know, and Vorik's just like bathed in blood. It's like, they weren't enough.
Yeah.
I could go to a bad place.
But yeah, Tuvok just goes off the rails on this one. And it makes me kind of wonder if he's getting a contact buzz off of Vorik with the crazy time here.
Yeah, like, why didn't you just stun him? And then be like, all right, Tom, take her out, give her the D, and we'll just go back up the ship after you're done.
I thought this whole thing was a surprise. I was not expecting Vorik to come back with a second round of the crazies and to disturb the sexy time in the woods.
They set it up at the beginning. There are 3 ways to solve this. Bang it out, meditate it out, or fight to the death. This was the only way for them to finish this episode without people having sex. And then they obviously, for censorship reasons, wanted to do that. Like, so instead of banging it out, we're going to have them fight.
I don't know. It's Star Trek. People are allowed to have sex. People do have sex. I think that had
only on DS9, bro. Only on DS9. Surprisingly, maybe Andrew Robinson, the episode of DS9 he directed was actually also a sexy time episode where a whole bunch of people end up actually banging in that episode, unlike in Voyager.
People had sex all the time in Next Gen. I could list off dozens.
Troy, I think that under alien influence.
The first one that sprung to mind was Ro, Laren, and Riker in Conundrum. I think had they cut this American Gladiators bit at the end off, and they just would have let, you know, Tom and B'Elanna do their thing out in the woods, you know, faded away, let Vorik have actually gotten off on the holodeck. They could have still kept the awkward scene at the end, and I think it would have come out a better episode for it. Vorik and B'Elanna having their fist fight. I don't know. Maybe it kind of
an awful fist fight too. Like, it is a terrible, bad Star Trek fighting scene.
Maybe that was giving Roxann Dawson, you know, giving B'Elanna a chance to kind of get revenge on the guy who saddled her with this crap. I don't know.
I like that they gave the only thing about it that's interesting, it gives B'Elanna the agency to end what has happened to her rather than have to have someone else save her.
Yeah.
That's a neat story beat. But man, did they like cobble together a Star Trek fight scene? Because they kind of keep cutting away so they can cut back to the stunt doubles. I guess maybe the stunt doubles don't look like them. So like whenever they do a stunt, both of their faces have to be obscured. It looks awful. But the end result is they both knock each other out, and this fortunate circumstance clears them both of the blood fever, and everything is okay. They beam back up. The local aliens are actually like really like happy with the fact that Voyager's helping them hide themselves. So they're going to give them the Gallosite that they need. Tom and B'Elanna have a awkward elevator talk, like, "Hey, I know you're into me, and I kind of want you to be into me. Like, I'm interested in you, and maybe some point when you're feeling more comfortable, I can see your quote unquote scary Klingon side again." Basically saying, if you would like to bang and not be under the psychic influence of one of our alien rapists, I'm down for that. And she essentially says, I am at some point going to bang you. That is not the last scene in the episode, though. The last scene in the episode is something that almost felt tacked on, and I think it might have been, but is extremely important. Because what happens before Voyager pieces out from the planet, Chakotay calls Janeway down to the surface to see something they found that was quite disturbing to them. It's the remains of one of the invaders, and wouldn't you know it, oh my god, we're finally there. It's the Borg.
Yeah, it's a Borg. I mean, you've already had your way with the Q. Bring on the next victim.
I appreciate your resignation to what you now must know as destiny, which is,
to be fair, this end scene is really cool, and if I didn't know all of your terrible foreshadowing, I'd be pretty excited to see what they were going to do here. Chakotay parts bushes, and you've got like this skeletal husk of the organics eaten away, and there's some bone fragments. It's like a skeleton Borg. It looks pretty fucking sweet. Obviously, the turbo nerd in me is like, but when the Borg die, they get beamed back up to their ship, so there's no remains. But it's like, you don't know how long ago that happened, blah, 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 whatever. It's cool. It adds more neat stuff to this surviving race that has gone into the mines to dodge assimilation.
Agreed.
Gives you sympathy. Like, think about this race on the planet, like how hyped they were that Chakotay helped them finish hiding themselves, that this species has now resigned to basically for the rest of its existence live in the caves because of 20 minutes of terror that the Borg visited on them, and the fact that it's not a bad idea at all for them to do this because this is the Delta Quadrant and the Borg are around and they could very easily cycle back. And you're now mole people because some asshole synthetics rolled through and fucked your shit up that hard.
The actual reveal and its part in this episode is cool. We're in the back half of season 3, so it was destiny that they were going to eventually have to start teasing this, and I think our next episode actually might have more Borg stuff in it. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to be positive about it from my perspective, simply because so many of the Borg episodes end up being disappointments. That's not to say all of them are. There are some good ones. So, don't hold out some hope. It's just that they make a pretty, I think, in my opinion, big error right up front with them. And they don't quite ever recover, despite doing some things that I think were interesting later on. You never want to make your big boogeyman, spooky, space zombies. The very, very next thing you want to not make them is less scary.
Yeah.
Like them being scary is what's cool about them. And unfortunately what Voyager ultimately does is over-explain some things, and right off the bat, they make them less interesting. And it's not as bad as what they do to the Q. I'll say that. Not as bad.
Well, your suspicions are right. We're going to be going into season 3, episode 17, Unity. We got Kes the Doctor and B'Elanna around medbay of a Borg drone. Chakotay finds a planet of unassimilated Borg drones from all over the galaxy.
Yeah, I guess our theory about if we like Chakotay is going to be tested very quickly. I recall this one being very Chakotay heavy, so
fingers crossed, Chakotay. We are now sitting at 1 hour and 8 minutes of this episode recording. Joe, it is my hope that you will find mercy in your editing, your strong yet tender hands of editing, and you'll cut this down to, I don't know, 50 minutes with all of that god awful slash fic laying on the editing room floor. If there's any mercy within your bones, please.
This is a hateful voyage. And sometimes...
It's us hating Star Trek, not our fans hating us.
Oh, well, we'll see. We'll see. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us. We appreciate everybody who's come along lately. We've had a lot of growth. Thanks, actually, to Mike at Hail and Well Met, which is a podcast, a D&D podcast. Mike's Australian, actually, which was funny to listen to the podcast and hear all these accents. I'm like, oh, how exotic. He's been a big fan of ours since the beginning, and he's thrown some attention our way. And so anybody who's come along from that, welcome. I promise you, I will only sparingly read Star Trek / fiction to Careless Whisper, only occasionally.
Flip side to that, we know we got some super nerds out in our listeners, and if you guys like D&D, which probably a lot of you do, and you're in the market for a great podcast, go check out Hail and Well Met.
Absolutely. And on that note, we will see you next week with Unity. Peace.